Welcome to Garage Talks. Welcome Lance Panigutti to another round of Garage Talks, brought to you by Buddy Insurance, by the way. We've been partnering with them this year, and thank you for that support. Lance, how you doing?
No, thanks for having me back on. It's been, 6 months since our last time?
10 years? Doesn't it feel that way?
That's how it feels like. But at least we have good news this time.
Yes? Well, let's give it the 30-second good news, and let's dive into the details.
I mean, the short version is Cyclocross, and I've always hated this saying Cyclocross is coming, but it's actually coming this year. And it's looking like we're going to have a full Shimano GRX series. All 6 races in the series, including the state championship on top of that, which is moving to Louisville Rec Center.
Okay, great. So how do you, besides excited and happy, and how does it feel after this tough season to be able to say those words?
I mean, it's kind of like exhaling because it was such a build-up to get to this point.
Yeah.
A lot of people know we typically launch our cyclocross season end of May or early June. And we really didn't know if we were going to have a series till, 2 weeks ago? Actually, last week, when City of Boulder kind of came through with Valmont. So there were a lot of moving pieces. There were a lot of health departments to deal with. But the best thing that we did to help kind of open the door for cyclocross was getting our Stroke and Stride, our swim run series at Boulder Res back up and running at the end of July.
So I'm curious, how did that translate, since none of the races are in Boulder? Well, that's not, they're in Valmont. There's a couple at Valmont, right? So that opened the door in Boulder. How did that translate to other counties having that success in Boulder?
I mean, the biggest thing is it gave us a working model in terms of our COVID-19 mitigation plans to say, all right, this is a swim run race. Yes, it's very different than cycling, but there are things that carry over and can be readapted for the cyclocross scene.
So talk about in a general way the process to even get to this. Like, how hard was it to get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and people signing off and saying, yeah, let's do this? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it really started, it was early July. We still had about 4 triathlons we hadn't canceled yet. We were hoping the state, in terms of its reopening guidelines, was going to move to phase 3. Phase 3 was protect your neighbors. That would have moved the upper limit that you could have on site at a given time to 500 people.
Okay.
That never happened.
Right.
We're still, to this day, in phase 2, safer at home.
Is 175? Is that the number?
Which is 175 on site at a given time. That's why a lot of people are seeing at restaurants. They have every other table blocked off, and they're basically funneling people in, funneling out to make sure they don't go beyond that 175 limit.
So in terms of like a race, obviously cyclocross has different categories and different start times. Even without trying, it's pretty easy to keep it under 175, isn't it? Or
it's a long day. I mean, we're dealing with an 8.5-hour day when it comes to cyclocross. So the biggest thing that actually came out, and a big credit to Bicycle Colorado and a lot of advocates that actually worked directly with the state office, was to provide clarity for, all right, what does the 175 look like for an endurance sport? Because some are time trial starts, some are mass start road races.
Right.
There needed to be more guidance for the endurance sporting community. And that came when we could have 25 max on a start line and on a finish line.
Okay.
And when you look at cyclocross, if you look at our first race, the way it is structured, there are max category start limits of 25 people all the way through.
Okay.
And some of the bigger categories, Cat 4 men, Cat 5 men, 40 plus Cat 4 men, 50 plus Cat 4 men, there are going to be a lot of people sitting on the sidelines that first race. Now, that is race number 1. Race number 2, after we kind of establish a baseline, and we're dipping our toe into this. I'd rather have a plan that I can be retweaked and works well versus trying to do too much in the first race, even though it meets the guidelines.
Do you think you'll have a lot of eyeballs there, or will there be people that are in there with the county? Or?
There could be. Yeah. I mean, we expected, and you have to plan for a lot of eyeballs there.
Right.
I mean, the best thing you can do is say, you know what, everyone from the mayor in the state governor's office is going to be on site watching this.
Right.
And for race 2, what we did is work with our timer, Mark from Race Right, and say, all right, with chip timing, that gives us a lot of flexibility. We can still take a race like the Cat 4 men. Typically, there's about 45 guys that do that race. And we're going to have heats.
Right.
And kind of went back to our swimming roots and said, we're going to have 2 heats. Heat 1, 25 guys. Heat 2, the next 25 guys. So the max limit in that race is still 50 people.
Will you have a championship heat, or is it just the 2?
It'll be the 2 heats.
Yeah.
It'll be ranked by USA Cycling Cyclocross rankings.
Okay.
So the top 25 guys with the top 25 rankings are in Heat 1. Next lower 25 guys are in Heat 2. So that shouldn't affect the podium. The
Right.
podium should still come out of Heat 1. But
It could come out of Heat 2. Just
if you got that Superman in Heat 2 that just had the race of his life,
Right.
what we're doing is merging the chip timing data for the final results.
Okay.
So it's not going to be Heat 1 results, Heat 2 results.
Gotcha.
It's going to be a Cat 4 results based on the chip data.
So really, the experience of the cyclist is going to feel very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit of that head-to-head racing is taken off, but I look at the silver lining and say, you know what? The guy that's always been lining up 26th, 27th place at a cyclocross race, he's never seen the front of a race before.
Right.
Now he's going to be lining up and getting what amounts to a first-row call-up in Heat 2.
Man, Kenny, I might need to try this race. I don't know. I've been tempted to cyclocross. Maybe I would feel a little less intimidated.
With no triathlons this year, it'd be the perfect time.
Right? Okay.
And I've actually gotten a lot of emails from people already. I mean, people saying, you know what, is cross coming? I got a mountain bike. Is it okay to do the race on a mountain bike? Or I just dusted off my 1998 cyclocross bike. Is that okay? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you've always encouraged that in the past. You've had fat tire divisions. You've had a first-timer sort of things. Are you going to do all those same categories again, or are you going to start to, do you need to pare it down a little? Just
No,
because?
the day is still structured in the same exact way. I mean, we did move a couple different categories around just because what we're looking at is, all right, adhering to that 175 limit, and I based the model on a 150 limit. So it's kind of bigger block, smaller block, bigger block, smaller block throughout the day, and then juniors are at the end. One of the things we learned with Stroke and Stride that went super well was no spectators on site.
Right.
So no vendors on site. I mean, as you know, you can't have people lingering. It's come, have a great time, do the race, and then grab your stuff and head out.
So if you had some families, they might have to work around that a little bit, then go get something to eat and come back or whatever.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, with the juniors, though, at the end of the day, we built in a 20-minute block to essentially flush the venue.
Okay.
And then when the juniors come in, they're allowed one parent per minor.
Oh, okay. So talk about, like, you had to deal with 4 counties or 5 counties?
4 counties.
4 counties. Just kind of in a maybe not too political way, but talk about the differences of those counties and how the process was. And is it frustrating? Was it hard? Was it?
It's kind of like we talked about with our last garage talk. The people that normally we deal with, heads of Parks and Recs department, they turned into middle management in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
They were trying to essentially pass things off to the health departments for that final approval. So you were dealing with an education process. That was probably the biggest hurdle.
Right. They don't understand racing.
Exactly. All the people I typically deal with at all the different venues, grounds crew, Parks and Rec, they know cyclocross. They know our course designs, how the race functions throughout the day.
Yeah.
Someone looking at this permit application and this COVID plan for the first time in a health department, they don't know. Right. So there was a lot of back and forth. I mean, Tri-County Health, which is our Parker race, I think we went through 3 revisions on our plan, and they weren't revisions of changing the plan. It was revisions of educating them to why the plan actually fit their model.
Did you have to like way early on, you came out at the beginning of the year with some new environmental sort of protocols, and you know the bamboo toilet paper that the neighbors took at the beginning of COVID because everybody couldn't get toilet paper. But what are you still continuing on with all of that, and has that actually been somewhat of a positive in this process too?
To me, that doesn't change.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a stockpile full of bamboo toilet paper in my warehouse.
Yeah.
I mean, those things have never been more important, and it's something I'm hoping we can still build on for next year.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing from cyclocross is the post-race experience. It is essentially eliminated.
Right.
You're not going to see coffee trucks, food vendors on site. The award ceremony is going to be very limited. We're not going to be printing out results on site. We're going to be directing people to online because they are live already online.
Right.
So it's all right. You finished your race. Go get your phone when you're packing up your car. Check your result.
Do you ever see a day where maybe people can watch like their friends race the course like digitally somehow on a virtual screen or something?
I've always thought it would be cool to have a watch that's basically tied in to just that race. So when you're racing, say a triathlon, because you have multiple timing points,
right,
and you can see where you're ranking while you're racing.
I think it'd be interesting.
I think all right, cross the timeline and it's I'm in 5th place or I'm in 8th place. And maybe that's a little too tech geeky and shouldn't happen. It should go more old school.
Yeah. I just think having a dot on a screen that your friends in another state could track you
cool.
Just to see how you're doing would be pretty neat. I don't know, maybe something.
Little alert when you crash.
Right.
Crash down the barrier.
Yeah. Well, so run through this season one more time with the dates and where they are. All the
It
different
kicks off super quick.
Okay.
So we finally get the Valmont approval through. That's going to be September 19th.
Okay.
Then we move to Parker on October 4th.
Okay.
Come back to Broomfield for Interlochen October 10th. And then a brand new venue. I mean, that's one thing that kind of gets lost in the shuffle of when we finish the season, we're always looking for ways to improve it and find new venues, find new courses. And one we've been working on for a long time finally came to fruition this year. So Broomfield Industrial Park.
Okay.
Still in Broomfield. Sienna Lake was also in Broomfield.
Yep.
It's replacing Sienna Lake.
And where's the Broomfield Industrial Park?
It's basically just south of Main Street there. Kind of downtown, if Broomfield-ish.
Okay.
Off of Teller Street.
Okay. Got it.
And
Okay.
it's tucked in there. It's hidden.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got a lot of elevation gain, a lot of grass, ton of parking.
Nice.
I think people are going to like it.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's on Halloween. That's
Oh.
October 31st.
Okay.
So get your costumes ready.
Is that yeah?
The picture taking is going to be great.
And there'll be one after that, right?
And then there's two more.
Two more. Okay.
Then we go to Westminster,
Okay.
November 14th, and we wrap up in Longmont on December 5th.
Okay.
And that's the Shimano GRX series.
That's a 0X series.
And then basically right before Thanksgiving is the Colorado State Championship. And that's presented by Knight Composite Wheels this year.
Okay.
Brand new sponsor,
Yeah.
local sponsor.
Yep.
And that's at Louisville Rec Center. And that's a 2-day event.
Oh, they're awesome. So talk about some of the sponsors. Where are you at with sponsors these days?
I mean, the sponsors have been super supportive. They've
Yeah.
stuck behind us through thick and thin. Shimano, obviously, with the Shimano GRX kits.
Right.
And we will be raffling off a couple kits again this year.
Nice.
Feedback Sports, great local sponsor.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they're not going to be doing their race this year.
Okay.
So-
they're not going to have anything to look out?
They're not.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, but I guarantee their team will be out in force.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they will.
Yep.
So who else is your sponsor?
And then Knight Composite Wheels
Yep.
has been a brand new one this year.
Okay.
And Boxwell storage units.
Okay.
That's kind of our warehouse storage kits.
All right.
And those are the main ones. And then we have a lot of teams that support us throughout the year in terms of volunteers. That's probably the biggest thing we're not scrambling to get, but definitely putting the gas pedal on is that volunteer recruitment. And letting the volunteers know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, so talk about that a little bit.
They're going to have to wear masks on site.
Okay.
Volunteer shifts are typically still 3 hours. And then for the racers, they will show up, wear masks on site. It is pre-registration only.
Okay.
So when we hit those max field sizes, when registration closes, that's it. And then the biggest thing is the world can change on a dime. And we've seen that all summer long. So when that race fills up, if all of a sudden we got the green light on Thursday and Friday morning, I get a call from a health department saying no. Yeah. Colorado is now backsliding into phase 1.
Right.
We're canceling all events. We're going to have to cross that bridge when it comes and deal with it.
So from a sort of a bigger picture, there was a couple of bike races this year. There was a couple of crits out at Table Mountain. There's the Steamboat stage race was this last weekend. Yep. There's been a little bit, but hasn't really kicked off. Do you feel like from a biking racing standpoint in the next 12 months, let's say, so will this really be critical to success next season into the road racing?
I think it's going to open the doors for our spring road season in a lot of ways, because what works now in the fall is still going to work in the springtime.
Because it's not going to go away.
No. Right. I mean, realistically, not to get political or talk about too much into COVID, but it's probably never going to go away. Right. So it's all right, how do we accept the risks? Because even with our COVID-19 mitigation plan for cyclocross, there's still risks out there. Yeah. There's still people that are going to look at this and say, you know what, I'm in the 60-plus group, or I'm 70 years old, and we're racing still 25 people on a start at a given time. That's not for me. That's too much of a risk, and that's okay.
Right.
But for a lot of other people, 40-year-old guy, 25-year-old girl, first time racing, they're willing to accept those risks. Yeah. And that's something that we have to be very clear. Here's the plan. Is it 100%? Nothing's going to happen. We're going to wrap you in bubble tape? No, of course not. Right. But here's the plan, and if it works for you and you're excited to come out and have a good time, come out and have a great time.
Makes sense. Well, let's since we got you here, let's turn a little bit to some personal side of this. Like, what has your summer been like, and what have you learned from this for yourself personally, your wife, your business? Like, what things have you drawn out of this that maybe will improve things for you on different levels?
It was a lot of office work, and it was a ton of time on the phone.
Yeah.
Which, it's funny, when we finally got a Stroke and Stride up and running, and there was a lot more set up with Stroke and Stride this year.
Yeah.
I was so sore the next day, and I was like, it was a Stroke and Stride. Like, lifting that many amount of cones made me sore. I was completely out of production shape.
Production shape, I love it.
But it was still busy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a lot of back and forth in dealing with brand new people. But in terms of the silver lining, we definitely learned a lot in terms of how to make things more efficient, especially economically efficient.
Right.
Because, I mean, we had no budget to deal with for anything.
Any IT challenges that you sort of solved certain things or really
Not
worked
really
it?
IT challenges. It was more production challenges in terms of we sold off all our trucks.
Wow.
Yep.
How many was that?
We sold off 2 work trucks, a trailer, my camper, and then we got smaller trailers. So we just found a way to be, all right, look at our staff, look at what we can tow, and how do we make these races more efficient and reduce the budget.
So moving forward, assuming you bring back some of these things, you'll feel like you're in a better position financially for those events?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, fingers crossed, that's the goal.
But you really trimmed down some overhead.
We had to.
Yeah. But you're still equipped to do what you
Exactly.
did. Yeah. How about personally? What did you guys get to the mountains? Did you do any new stuff? Did you?
I mean, because I had weekends.
Yeah.
So my wife and I camped more than ever.
Okay.
And that was a blessing.
Right.
That even she said, you know what, we're never going to get these weekends back.
Right.
I know you. I know your life.
Yeah.
For the next 10 years, at least, you're going to be putting on these races. So we were hiking 14ers. We were visiting places like Telluride for the first time.
Yeah. So where did you see that? Was just like, oh my gosh, I can't.
Telluride, if you've never been there, gorgeous part of the state.
Right.
Probably one of the prettiest parts of the state that there's not nearly enough events.
Right. That's true.
I mean, it's remote. It's harder to get to, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Did you go any? So I was driving around Colorado too. Did you get to some of the other parts of the San Juans near like Lake City or Ouray or any of those?
We went to Ouray and Silverton.
Okay. What did you think of Silverton?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah. It'd be fun to have some events on some of those gravel roads, right? Like
there's so many gravel roads down there.
The Alpine Loop. There's one. That'd be a hell of a
And I think gravel next year is really what's going to take off the most because so many people bought bikes this year.
Oh my gosh.
And you show me a road bike that someone says it's just made for road, and I will tell you it can be adapted and work just fine on gravel.
Right. Yeah, I think gravel racing, gravel bike, cross bike, they're very similar. I don't know that people understand how easy it is to ride a gravel bike in a cross race. You're fine. I mean, there's some differences, but so you're going to have mountain biking in the cross races. A little bit, right? Are you going to have a mountain bike category?
Not a mountain bike category per se, but I mean, definitely welcoming to mountain bikers.
Right. So we've got 6 races coming up from you guys. And there's some other cross races, is there, or not yet?
There's a few that I've heard are coming online.
Okay.
I don't want to speak for those just yet. So fingers crossed, the more races we can get out there, all following the same guidebook, the better.
Okay. So you had a pretty good summer camping. You guys did some fun stuff. You worked really hard to get the stroke and stride going, which is, from everything I heard, went really well. And that paved a lot of this announcement today about the cross season. And you've got the cross races going. Seems like a good path forward.
I hope so. I mean, we've definitely been busy. I mean, it's not in me to kind of sit back and wave the white flag.
Right.
I mean, it's a balancing act like anything else. You're balancing the state of the world with still moving forward with what I do for a living and what the community loves doing. I mean, that's the biggest thing we took from Stroke and Stride. People just loved being out there, even though there were dozens of new rules. They loved seeing all their old friends and just feeling an outdoor event again.
No, I agree. I was up at the Lookout Trials recently, and it was just nice to see some people I hadn't seen in a long time. Maybe you should bring some music to your venues, and then the people that have been dying for outdoor music can...
Best of both worlds.
Because that's been tough for the music industry. I don't think they've quite figured it out as much. Yeah, I mean, tough for everybody, but...
I think people would actually hate my music taste, though, so
really?
We'll leave that one on the sideline.
I was going to say, what does that mean?
I don't know if electronic music and cyclocross really go hand in hand.
Your electronic music, okay. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be there and support the races, and I'm excited to... Can I come as a media? I mean, are you really?
We'll get you in.
But I mean, you're really not wanting many spectators, right?
No spectators, no vendors. Our photographers, like the Ryan Muncies, the Jeans, we will find a way to get them in.
Okay.
They'll be a part of our overall volunteer numbers.
Okay.
But outside of that, no.
Okay. Good to know. On those really cold days, I may or may not show up. We'll see. I think Westminster's always cold, right? Don't you just dial that in?
Or tomorrow. Tomorrow's cold.
I know, right? Snow. We're here battling smoke. I can hardly talk, and then tomorrow we got snow. September or whatever this is, 10th, 9th. 2020. Everything's up for grabs in 2020. Well, with that, let's just call it a day. Thanks for coming out, Lance.
Yeah, thank you.
It was good to have some good news to share, and we'll see you on the course.
Next up, we'll see you on your bike on the start line.
Maybe so. We'll see.